All right, let's talk about these biological weapons labs in Ukraine. Now, remember in the spring, we learned that the United States was funding and operating biological research laboratories in Ukraine. We've been waiting for updates on this story. I certainly have. The Western media was quick to denounce it, call it Russian propaganda. Then it was, of course, figured out it was actually true. We covered it here on our show. Our good friend Tucker Carlson also covered it on his show. He got blasted for covering it. Remember that? And good for him for covering it. It was called Russian disinformation, right? And even the Russians called it out and said, yes, there are biological weapons laboratories in Ukraine. We've known about this for years. They're there. In fact, the United States State Department released this document in response. I'm going to read you what it says. This is Ned Price from the U.S. State Department. It was dated March 9th. So I'm going to read it to you here. The Kremlin's allegations of chemical and biological weapons laboratories in Ukraine. The Kremlin is intentionally spreading outright lies that the United States and Ukraine are conducting chemical and biological weapons activities in Ukraine. We also have seen the People's Republic of China officials echo these conspiracy theories. The Russian disinformation is total nonsense and not the first time that Russia has invented such false claims against another country. Also, these claims have been debunked conclusively and repeatedly over many years, he says. Okay. He says, as we've said all along, Russia is inventing false pretexts in an attempt to justify its own horrific actions in Ukraine. The United States does not own or operate, key words here, does not own or operate any chemical or biological laboratories in Ukraine. It is in full compliance with its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention and Biological Weapons Convention. And it does not develop or possess such weapons anywhere. It's Russia that has active chemical and biological weapons programs and is in violation of the chemical warfare laws. Okay? Weapons Convention, the Biological Weapons Convention. And then, of course, this happened. Watch.
I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're...
Oh, okay. So, well, that answered it, right? So they do have these facilities. What? Okay, so you were lying to us then, right? Okay, so there are labs, but there are no bioweapons labs. They're just research facilities, right? Okay, we were waiting for the other shoe to drop in this story. I know I was, and it just did. New documents have just surfaced showing that Ned Price at the State Department was not just being coy, he was lying to the American people. So let's put some of these newly leaked documents up on the screen here. These are Ukrainian weapons documents that confirm the military and biological activities of the Pentagon on the territory of Ukraine. Newly leaked documents have surfaced that show on August 29th, 2005, a division of the U.S. Department of Defense, which is called the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, signed an agreement with a corporation called Black and Veatch. Have you ever heard of this? Black and Veatch? It's kind of an unfortunate name for a company. Out of Kansas, and they're in the United States, in Kansas. The contract, the agreement was to implement the Biological Threat Reduction Project in Ukraine. Now, according to the War on Leaks that broke this, the company was to build and did build a central diagnostic reference lab for especially dangerous infections near the city of Kharkiv. This facility was to conduct research on pathogens as well as create vaccines. A total of $173 million was allocated for the project. What's interesting and not surprising, of course, is that the United States contracts with private companies, right? So you taxpayers will pay for bioweapons being developed in Ukraine, but the United States State Department, Ned Price, gets to say that we don't own them. Convenient, right? Like, we don't own them,
right?
Nor do we actually operate them, because we're just funding private companies to do it, right? It's the same way we get away with all sorts of shit, like in Iraq with private contractors, right? It's how
It's
we're
kind of
able
like a franchise. It's like that's the franchise, and we supply all the goods and all that, and we get a percentage of the profits or whatever, but we don't own it. Somebody else does.
Yeah. So we learn from these documents that these American private companies are doing the heavy lifting on all of this. And so this Black and Veatch company, the largest engineering firm in Kansas, has contracted with the Department of Defense for these biological threat laboratories in Ukraine. Don't take my word for it. It's literally right on their website. Here it is, Black and Veatch, and they have a whole section right on these particular projects in Ukraine. Here's what Black and Veatch's own website says about this biological threat project. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency competitively awarded us, the Special Projects Corporation, one of its biological threat reduction integrating contracts in 2008. The 5-year contract, which has then been renewed, has a collective ceiling of $4 billion among the 5 selected contractors. And they're in Ukraine in 2008, a vital part of the cooperative biological threat reduction.
Okay. I mean, they're trying to reduce those things. They're certainly not producing they're just like deconstructing it, right?
Right.
Like
so
a Caesar salad.
So that's the joke, right? Is that they're working on and creating these things, and then they remove them from the labs to test them in airborne conditions, right? So we're going to try these things to see if these would actually hurt people. So then we're going to like release them in quarters or out, lighter versions of it, is according to the reading that I've done on it, like lighter versions of it to see how it'll interact with human and animal testing and so forth, and see how it interacts with these things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then go back to the first page, the front page of that article.
Which article?
Website?
Yeah, their website.
The website.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If you go to back to the home page, look at the top under the name. It says 100% employee owned.
Right. And they say that everywhere on their website. They really want you to know that, like, no, there's no U.S. government owning any of this, but they're funding all of it. So they're not.
So is it like a
by
bioweapons? It's like a bioweapons co-op.
Yeah.
What was that?
You can
That
bring
doesn't sound safe.
You can bring your honey and your different things that you make, your beeswax lipstick, and you can sell it at the Black and Veatch co-op. And also sell your bat coronavirus there while you've got it too. So you'll recall, maybe you don't recall, I didn't, and I've forgotten about this. This same Black and Veatch, B&V. Where have we seen that before? Where have we seen B&V? Oh, I remember. In Hunter Biden's emails in his laptop.
No, get the heck out of here.
Look at the very bottom of your screen right here.
Too much.
Look at the bottom of your screen.
I can't read that.
Well, if you zoom in on it, and I don't have a copy on my laptop, otherwise I'd zoom in on it. But you can clearly read all of the different projects in Ukraine, Burisma, everything else. But of course, there at the bottom where it says, I'm going to look at it.
I can read it. The principal contractor, M&V, seems to be also the party that operates in Ukraine on the similar or same projects.
B&V.
There's no competition here, ?
Meaning like there's no competition because we got these contracts. There's no competition for B&V.
But it says here on their website that they were competitively awarded. It specifically tells us that they were bidding because that's big scandal.
You have to do it. You have to have competitive bidding.
Right. So they're
in government
asking,
contracts.
is there no competition here? Right. Saying, okay, interesting.
There you go.
Can't put that one all the way together.
Some new documents for you to mull over on your Friday and into your weekend.